Welcome to the Place to Be Free podcast. I'm your host, Martha Blessing. I'm an energy intuitive, healer, spiritual channel, and a healing mentor and guide. I'm driven by the purpose of illuminating the potential in others to live their personal power, well-being, and sovereignty by connecting them to the truth within themselves. To explore my work or connect with me, you can visit marthablessing.com. If you feel called to support the podcast, please leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. I so appreciate your presence here, and I'm honored to serve as a guide or companion on your path. Now, on to the episode. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm talking today about depression, specifically spiritual and energetic approaches to exactly what is going on when someone is manifesting or holding the frequency and symptoms of depression in their physical, emotional, energetic, etheric body, and what can they do to change and shift that frequency and energy out of depression to heal. Now, I do have to give you the disclaimer, of course, that I am not dispensing medical advice and that you should always check with and work with your licensed healthcare professionals. What I am going to share with you is the insights that I have gotten, number one, from my own journey out of depression, and also in helping my clients with their journey out of depression. I guess I want to say it's my own journey out of it and my awareness from both the clinical aspects of it, having been a nurse, and also the energetic, spiritual, and even the Ayurvedic, having been a clinical Ayurvedic practitioner. What is going on here? So let's talk about that. Let me give you first the spiritual and the energetic dynamics of what is actually going on when someone is in depression. My first experience with depression, actually, my father-in-law was bipolar, and I could not understand when I did my clinical rotations in nursing school. I had a really hard time when I was at the psych center understanding mental health issues. That was many, many years ago. My father-in-law, I could not understand when he was in a depressive state how the body could do that. I just couldn't understand why someone couldn't snap out of it, right? Until I became depressed. Now, when I became depressed, I was already in the healing arts. I was working as a certified healing touch, energetic, energy medicine practitioner and teacher. And so I had a different understanding and perspective of what happens in the body and the energy field when we're in a state of depression. It hit me. All of a sudden, I had this insight mentally of, oh, this is what depression is. This is what they're talking about when one experiences clinical depression. So that was my first entrance into knowing what that felt like. Fortunately, at the time, I had enough tools in my toolbox to get myself out of it in, I would say, probably maybe 3-4 weeks, to lift myself out of that debilitating depression. I would get out of bed every day and go through the motions, but there was just such a heaviness and a sadness and a grief. And it was just going through the motions, but my body, everything inside of me felt dead. Fast forward 20 some years, now I've been working with clients. They've been learning and applying and practicing the methodology that I teach that got me out of 10 years of daily chronic pain. And I'm knowing that this works for pretty much every kind of symptom and imbalance, because you've heard me say it, everything is energy, including depression. So how depression shows up energetically is there is a deficiency in the root chakra. That root chakra from our perineum, from our pelvic floor down through our legs is the energy of our right to be here. Our mental, emotional, spiritual, we've incarnated, we're here in this body, we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, an energetic experience, and we've chosen to be here at this time, and yet we have the feeling that we don't either belong here or like we're in safety and survival mode. That is the energy of the root chakra. When we're in fear for a long enough time, in our mental programming, in our subconscious mind, if we are in a constant fight or flight, all of our energy has shot up into our brain, into our mind, going over and over and over on this loop about safety and security, ruminating in our fears. And what that creates is a deficiency in energy in the root chakra. So part of the healing of that from the energetic perspective is to balance and bring the energy down into the root chakra. This is also where restless leg syndrome comes from. The shaking of the legs gets worse at night for most people. That is the root chakra energy trying to get through, trying to root and ground an individual in this life, in this world, in their purpose, in their dharma, right? Because you have to have that sense of safety and security and trust in the divine, in intelligent substance. And so we're not in that when we have depression, when we have a deficiency and all of our energy is up in our head. We're in fear and worry and anxiety and panic. That's the energetic piece of it. So it's balancing, getting the mind, getting the energy out of the mind, which is a vata, V-A-T-A, vata imbalance in Ayurveda, where really your mind's just like a tumbleweed going round and round in the ego and the fear. I'll leave a link for some of these things about the vata imbalances in the show notes so that you can read up on that and understand if that is where your energy is. Back to the spirituality. So we've chosen to be here and our mind is running and racing in fear. Where is this coming from? 9 times out of 10, it's coming from the core wound. It's coming from the agreements that we made as children with our parents or our caregivers or whomever it was to be responsible for our needs of being warm and safe and fed and dry. And so we took on these programs and this indoctrination. And I know for me, like, you know, my dad was an alcoholic when I was when I was born and when I was very, very young. Not a classic alcoholic, but he drank, and there was a lot of strife. Certainly when I was in the womb, my mom's MO was fear and insecurity. So of course that's getting passed along to me and fed to me every day. But then I come out of the womb and I live it. I live that fear. I'm taught that fear. And there was always this fear around money and around fitting in and safety and security, which she got from her parents, right? They were business owners. When that has been passed on year after year, that becomes the program. And I'm just taking on the frequency of that. And eventually it's going to come up. This is the spirituality of the depression. If we move towards it and ask it what it wants to teach us and why it's here, it will give us the answers. This is why I'm so emphatic about teaching people the stillness practice, because you have everything you need inside yourself. You are born with it, despite the fact that we're programmed and indoctrinated to something else, to our own ancestral fears. We are meant to be here because we chose it and we are here. What is our path? What is our plan? What is our soul's plan and our purpose and our dharma? whatever that is, we have the means to achieve it inside of us already. The only thing that's holding us back is this energy and this belief that's creating the imbalance and the heaviness of the frequency of depression. So I got myself out of the first instance of it. And then it really came on heavy and strong right around 2016 after healing cancer. The tape and the program and the story that was playing in my head that had surfaced but not resolved itself was not good enough. Everything I did was not good enough. So on the outside, I looked like I had, the world by the balls. And on the inside, I was just shriveling up and wilting and dying because I had this subconscious identity and belief about not being good enough, which came from being dipped in shame every day. Like everything I did in my mom's eyes was not good enough. So she was projecting all of her stuff onto me. And what I have come to understand and observe is that every single person that I have worked with who has healed their depression without the medications, there has been an underlying heavy spiritual, mental, emotional, psychic connection of shame being the frequency in their tissues, in their heart center, and grief. Every single person over the last 25, 30 years. That's a significant amount. This is what I've come to see in every single person. It's why I feel comfortable bringing this to the podcast. Can I prove it? No. But enough people show up with this and we work in that area, in that arena, and they heal the depression. Now, here's what's interesting. They had an inner knowing. Pretty much all of these folks were either empaths or highly sensitive. They were awakening, right? They were awakening from this 3D, moving into the spiritual 5D. And they had an inner knowing that the medications were not the answer. Taking the antidepressants, yes. If you are in that place where you feel like you don't want to live, you need to get help. You need to see professionals. And sometimes you have to take the medications. I worked with one woman who, she had everything on the external that looked like perfection in her life, and she still struggled with depression and was on antidepressants. And what came out in our work together was her daughter was sexually abused by a teacher when she was very, very young in school. And the daughter held it in for a very long time. And it finally came out. In the whole family, the daughter who was affected, the other siblings, the mom, the dad, like everyone went through this and went to therapy and did all of the things that they could do. And mom was still on antidepressants. The reason why is because she was carrying a program and a story of shame around the fact that she let her daughter down, that she was a bad mom and she did not protect her daughter from this happening. And she replayed that shame tape over and over and over again. Now, everyone had healed and moved on, but mom was still playing the tape. So we had to go into her subconscious and excavate that and reprogram it, create a new neural pathway. What is the truth about this? And reprogram to the truth. And it took her about, I would say, maybe 8-9 months of consistency. Mind you, she was in this depression and on the medications for well over 10 years. So 8 months may seem like a long time when you're in depression, but compared to the 10 years that you've been living it on the drugs being numbed out, it's not that long. That's a pretty quick healing, really. Now, why the medications don't work, and most people will say this, and they will try to get off of them. the underlying core cause is still there. It's why I do the breakthrough sessions that I do in the medical medium readings and the energy intuitive readings, is to be able to excavate what is it that you're holding in your body and your subconscious and in your tissues, right? The issues are in the tissues. What is it that you're holding that you haven't been able to get at and release? And just taking the medications is not going to get at that. It is actually morphing your entire energetic system, right? It's shutting down and cutting off so many of the neurotransmitters and the chemicals and all. Like, the reason why we become deficient in serotonin and all of these other, yes, the gut is the second brain and it does create and manufacture serotonin, but why? Why would someone be in this energetic pattern? Well, when you start to be in a pattern of shame energetically, what happens? Your heart holds the grief, your solar plexus, your power center, your self-esteem and self-worth is just non-existent. What it looks like energetically for me when I work with these clients and do the assessments, it looks like a bowling ball just like shot through their solar plexus in their gut. There'll be just a great big hole. There's no container for the energy. And as a result, it cannot get down through the sacral, your birthing and creativity center, which holds your dharma and your purpose. Can't get through that and can't get down to your root chakra for you to actually be who it is you came here to be, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, karmically, and energetically. You see how this is all fitting together? The way out of depression is the spiritual and the energetic healing. So this is what I did. I got out of the depression. I knew the reason, I knew what the imbalances were, why I had depression. So I knew that taking medications, and it was heavy and it was very, very dark. I did a lot of really shitting on myself and isolation and not wanting to go places, not wanting to do things. It just was very, 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 very heavy. So I get it. Fortunately, I had all of this clinical, professional, and personal experience that I had to draw on to know what to do and how to get out of it. And the answer was to excavate the shame and the program and why the shame and why I made the agreement to take on, right? I took this on in childhood to agree with my parents to get the love and the safety and security and respect. It had less to do about what's going on in the world and the fear that the media creates for us. That is also a source of depression, but 9 times out of 10, it's the program that we're holding in our subconscious, our beliefs about ourselves, about being unlovable and unworthy. And when you move towards it and you work with someone who can excavate that and show you how to pull it out at its roots, you step into freedom. It's part of the path. It's part of the journey. I had to see the light in my path and my purpose and release all of that shame. It got a lot easier, quite honestly, when my mom passed and she wasn't still alive and like dipping me in the shame every day. But it does not have to be that way. Once you understand why it's there, the subconscious mind is insidious. It will keep trying to pull you back to the pattern to, quote, keep you safe. But if you are someone suffering with depression and even anxiety, this is the exact same pattern with anxiety. It shows up a little bit differently. There's 4 places energetically where we hold anxiety. I have lots of YouTube videos on that. You can check out on my YouTube channel, and I'll probably do another podcast on it. I hope that this makes sense. I hope that you can start to open up to the understanding of this, why the spiritual and the energetic is the solution out of depression. When you go into excavating that and you combine it with the quantum field healing and the holographic healing, it can be released quite quickly, which is what has happened with most of my clients. It's also the reason I have worked with a lot of people who they show up to me and they wonder, like, why didn't the therapy work? Why didn't all of the other modalities work? Why are they still in depression or anxiety? It hasn't gotten to the energetic. The talk therapy focuses on the problem and not the solution. The solution is change the frequency internally. And the only way to do that is change the way you see yourself and your life and your experiences to move into what is your path, what is your dharma. And so many times the anxiety and the depression is we are not living the life that we came here to live. And we're not doing that out of fear. We feel unworthy, unlovable, undeserving. So the path out again, spiritually, is to go inward and feel into what is it that lights you up so that you start to shift. And of course, you'll be scared to do it. I was scared to do everything in my life, but I still did it. And it's led me to an amazing life that I couldn't even have dreamt was possible. If you are struggling with depression, please make sure that you reach out to professionals, but also work on this spiritual and energetic approach to change your frequency, change your vibration, improve the balance between your mind and your body and your energetic field, and begin to allow your true sovereign frequency and life and light to come up and out to the surface. Step into the expansion of who you came here to be. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Place to Be Free podcast. And if you liked what you heard and you want to know more, go to marthablessing.com/free stuff.